So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Matchfit Football Podcast. I'm Darren, your host, as always, here on the show. And just a reminder, in the description to this episode, you'll find links to all our social media, including today's guest's social media as well. Today's guest, Alex Samuel, Ross County's Alex Samuel. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Delighted to get you on. We've been planning this quite a while. You moved north of the border from England. You came up from Wickham, and now you're at Ross County up in Scotland. How's that transition been for you, first of all?
It's been a big transition. I think it's from where Wickham was. So I'm originally from Wales, but from Wickham is about a 12-hour journey in total to get up here. So I mean, I thought 6 hours was long, and I know in the States, time is 12-hour journey is down the road for them. But I mean, 12 hours was crazy. So yeah, it's been a big transition, a big move for me and my wife. We've just bought a house, so we're just settling in. You've got boxes everywhere. You're trying to find where your tea towels are and which boxes and all of that. So we're settling in well, thank you.
The life of a professional footballer. You take on the new club, the new journey, and thankful to have a partner to be able to go and to be on that journey with. I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the main, a huge thing where um, any decision that we make, because there is something there's something that maybe even with this podcast would be good to raise awareness of footballers' wives and partners. I don't think they get enough credit as they do because I mean, not only for us footballers, you can obviously you're going somewhere, you've got something, you're going into a team, you have connections, but unfortunately, for a lot of wives and partners, they're going to nothing, and it's really tough. It's really tough. So I got a hats off to my wife, and but with this journey, we always any decision that we make, I always make sure now that we both agree to it. If she doesn't want to, or I don't know, we have to come to an agreement with wherever we're going. So that's kind of like a little insight to, in ways, marriage and football, because it doesn't get talked about a lot. It's and it's a huge part. I mean, like you said, I'll tell a little bit of just how this move happened. But we had honestly five hours to decide whether to come up here. So normally you have months to decide a move like this. You're moving countries, you normally have a lot of time to think about it. But because of just the circumstances happening at Wickham and things happening, it meant that I needed transfer window was ending. I needed to make a decision quick, so we only had an evening to decide whether this move that we were going to do it or not. And we decided, and 2 days later or a day later, we made the drive up, and we're now living in Scotland. So that football is a crazy industry.
It really is. And part of this podcast is I like to kind of get behind the scenes of football, not just the 90 minutes on a pitch, but training, your performance, how you maintain performance, your mindset, and all that stuff. And one of the topics I like to ask is about your support system. And it's really interesting you brought up, that the wife doesn't really get talked about, or footballers' wives don't get talked about, because I was going to ask you, about how important is that support system to you, but you're also now, with the relationship with your wife, you're also the support system for her at the same time as being a professional footballer. And that's such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's we're a team, and I think she understands kind of what it's about. And unfortunately, like you said, you can be going up anywhere. You just don't know. From when the transfer windows happen, anything can happen. You could end up anywhere in the world. So it's about, for us, keeping our marriage strong, and our relationship is probably the most important. It's more important than football. Because at the end of the day, football, you're going there maybe 2-3 hours a day, but your marriage is forever. Until when you stand on that altar, you make a vow, and that's important, isn't it? So really, it's a lifetime. That's what I was trying to say. It's a lifetime rather than football's just a short career. So you want to make sure that your marriage is strong, and you respect each other and you honor each other.
Absolutely agree with that. And we have a lot of people listening to this show who are young players going to go pro, or maybe they're young professionals wanting to take their game to the next level. And I think some of the points you've made there about that relationship and having that strong relationship and being in agreement and figuring that stuff out and having that stable home life, it will add and make sure that your football life and your pitch life and your professional life, is going good because you're not worried about what's happening at the house.
Uh, Massive. I think that's a huge part to enhance just being on the pitch. I've had times where me and my missus have argued, and I go to training, and I think everyone can relate. Not even just in football, but just in work in general. You're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
It's always going to be in your mind, and it does affect you. So when you have really, I see it as well as having a good foundation in that. It doesn't matter, like I said, something that I'd love to touch about is just the uncertainty of football, just with just moving up, the uncertainty of being in the squad, being selected, all the rejection you face. That you're always going to come home to a loving family, and that doesn't look at you as a footballer, it looks at you as who you are. And I think that then will just enhance. You can attack every day going, at least I have that as a security, and 100% that will affect and benefit you as your career goes on.
One of the topics I was going to bring up later on in the conversation was overcoming obstacles and hurdles. And you mentioned some of them there, the career of a footballer, the uncertainty and the rejection. So we'll talk about that now because you brought those topics up and I think it's a fascinating topic. How does a footballer overcome either rejection or a manager saying you need to move on, or the conversation of your contract's not being renewed, whether it be footballing point of view or financial point of view? But how does a player get over that, and then how do they begin to, is there an agent involved, or are they actively looking around at where they can go on trial, who's interested in them? How do you factor all that, and mentally how do you cope with the pressure of that,
Yeah,
especially if there's a season starting and you're maybe still out of contract 3 weeks before season starts, for example? Talk to me about that experience in your own career so far.
yeah. I mean, probably the one that stands out was when I was at Stevenage, and we just got married at the start of the season. We moved to Stevenage, and it was one of them. It was a really tough season. I was having loads of injuries. I was having so many setbacks, and it was really, really tough. And even in that, halfway through the season, I had a really bad ankle injury, which wasn't discovered what was the problem, which ended up me being released and hardly not playing. And I was obviously in League Two at the time, and you're sitting there. Obviously, I think you all your income and money and for rent, for bills is all on this. And I was released. I was unemployed, and nobody wanted to touch me because I haven't really played, and it wasn't really a successful season. So I was sitting there with unemployed, had no more money coming in. I've just got married, and you think, my gosh, this is really football. A lot of people just see the 10% of footballers Premier League earning, hundreds of pounds, hundreds of £1,000s a week, where I just got hit with the reality of, wow, this is football, and this is tough. Like, it really is tough. So that was a huge experience for me, where we discovered then I needed surgery as well, and then I had to go on trial to Wickham, and everything was kind of just snowballed into this really dark season for me. And one of the main things I got to say, how I overcame it, was my faith in my relationship with God. That was 100% my number one go-to, because knowing that God has a plan for your life, regarding the dark, there's going to be some dark valleys you're going to have to walk through, but knowing that you have God there with you changes the whole game plan. So for me, mentally processing the tough times and the uncertainty, I always knew that He was there for me. So it allowed me just to carry on. And I'll give some really practical things that really helped me, like we said, with support networks. So I had a lot of amazing people around me, people from where I went to church, where in Stevenage, and anywhere just in my career, everywhere I've gone, there's been a church there with people who just want to support and love you. So that's been a huge part of me. And for anyone, friends and people who you trust is a massive one to help you through them times. It's key, really, I think. And to have relationships where it's okay to say that you're broken. It's okay to admit when you are feeling hopeless. Sometimes, especially in the football world, and a very masculinity side of it, people want to pretend that they have it all together. And the truth is, nobody does. We all have our problems. We all struggle, and we all have weaknesses. And it's just about being open and honest and finding them people you trust to be able to speak. And just the mental side of that allows you to it massively helps. So that's one, a massive, really, for me, getting through them times with the people around me that loved me, that supported me, that prayed for me, that just got me through it and walked with me.
I mean, that support system, like even in the community, in the local community of where you're based and playing football, was obviously so vital for you. Talk to me about the mindset that it takes to be a professional footballer. You've got the support system in place, and you're able to, when you're struggling, you're able to put your hand up and say, "Hey, I need help with this." But there are also parts of your footballing career where you're personally responsible for it. How do you talk to me about that personal responsibility and the importance of being strong mindset in the terms of dedication and discipline to your craft as well?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. For me personally, the way I kind of deal with it, and I take day, I take a day as it comes. I don't try and think too far in the future because you can't really, because football can change any moment. So I just focus on the day, and I focus on the things of what I can do. Um, like physically, I always make sure I try and do extra stuff just to add, because for me, everyone's going to be at a level, and you want to be doing more and pushing more, pushing your limits more. So for me, getting through them hard times and strengthening your mindset, it's just attack each day as it comes. Even just have a plan of each morning when you get up and go, what can I do today? What can benefit me? What can add to my game? Whether that is, like you said, mentally, physically. And a lot of times I have, what I've been doing now at Ross County is I've been doing just something that I spoke with a sports scientist, is just working on my upper body strength and doing sets of pull-ups, dips, and push-ups. Literally just, and you do 1-1-1, 2-2-2, 3-3-3, up to 5, and then come back down. And just been doing that has been a huge benefited me massively. And another thing as well for me, that I would looking at my career is consistency. I think that's one of the big ones of being consistent in what you're doing. Because there's some days you don't want to do it, some days where you think, oh, this is a drag. But just doing them little things and those extra things can massively benefit and help. It might just give you an inch in a game, which could result in a goal or not. So all them things are very important.
All those little 1%, and a lot of it comes down to the mindset. If your mindset's wrong, you're usually all wrong. But if your mindset's right, your disciplines is there, you're dedicated, you're hardworking, you're ready to graft. You're up in Scotland when you get those Scottish wet, wintry autumn days when you don't really want to go to training, but when you've discipline and you're dedicated to your craft, you're going to go there and you're going to give 100%. And there's a testimony that I got from someone who's seen you play, who actually described you as one of the hardest working strikers he'd ever seen. And I think that actually says a lot about the personality of a person. Is
Yeah.
the hard work. We've all seen the elite players. You referenced the Premier League earlier, who throw the hands in the air, shake the head when things aren't going their way. But there's something about a grafter, if I can use an old-fashioned Northern Irish word, that someone who's willing to just put 100% in for themselves and the team. I want to ask you about: do you feel as a football player, and I know it's a team game, is there a sense of accountability and responsibility to your teammates?
Definitely. I think, like you said, you're a part of of a body, so to speak. You've got and everyone else has their own function. So it is your responsibility that you make sure that you're in a good fitness, that you are ready when you're called. There is And that's the other thing. If you're not in the squad or not in the team, you have to make sure that you're ready to go in, because that's going to be your time. So it's just that consistency. And like I said, putting 100% in. I mean, I think this is why I tell a lot of young players as well, because there can be so much pressure to do well and so much pressure of excellence. And sometimes that pressure can turn into actually fear and anxiety, which in ways what I see is fear, anxiety cripples. That's what it does. Instead of actually rising and being excited and looking forward to a game. And I just say to them, look, if you can give 100%, you've done everything you can. Like, there's nothing more you can do. You've given your all, and that's good enough. You know, that, like, you can't, if you give 100% and you try and you work your socks off, you can go off regarding the result, regarding if you've had a good game or not. You can say, I've given my all there, and being content with that is a huge thing.
I think the thing as well is, for example, if you're not playing, um, and your attitude is it's a team game at the end of the day, be able to encourage your team, pat people on the back who are doing well. Obviously, there's a competitive nature that you want to be the one who's playing, and I understand that, and you want to push yourself to try and get into the team and whatnot. But is that difficult at times to give someone else a pat on the back if you're not playing? Talk to me about those difficult times, maybe if you're in and out of the team.
Yeah, look, I think everyone wants to be in that starting 11. I think there'd be something wrong if you didn't want that. There would be something wrong. Everyone wants to be, and yeah, it can be, obviously it can be tough to say good luck, or wishing people well, because in ways there's a part of you that you want that for yourself. So it's okay to admit that as well, because I think everyone will have that. But it just shows the strength of character, and it shows that you're able to push through them emotions and see the bigger picture. At the end of the day, if your team's doing well, you're doing well, and the higher your team is up in the league, the better it is going to be for you. So it's kind of understanding that. I think football's a really weird sport, because in ways it's about you, but it isn't as well. It's a really strange one, where it's a real strange balance you have to get between it's about you, but it's also for the team. It's about your teammates. It's about the striker who is playing in front of you and encouraging them and pushing them on. It's kind of like creating a culture in a team, really, and to be able to push each other on, which I think is the goal for every team. Well, it should be anyway.
Yeah, I agree. You always want your team to improve, and if there's a culture to push each other on, it's obviously going to lead in improvement. Talk to me a little bit about your motivation on a football pitch, and obviously confidence. Now, how does that play a part in your game?
It's huge. Some people, I would say most of it is confidence. You see Premier League players, you can tell when a player's in form and when they're not, and their confidence is low. So it goes all the way through the leagues. For me, confidence is a huge thing as well. When I can walk on that pitch confident, it does have a serious effect. And that's what I mean. Sometimes with the mental side of going, I try and not put so much pressure on myself, because I find when I do that, I'll try and do something, or I try too hard, and if I misplace a pass, or I miss the target, or I don't hold the ball up, and it doesn't work out the way I want it, then my confidence will start to chip away. So it's kind of like, is in ways protecting yourself and building yourself up. And a lot of times, so what I say in games, if someone makes a mistake, I'm of the mindset of always encourage. I mean, there's certain ways you can encourage. So there's a huge difference between someone slamming you and telling you this, which in ways is not going to help your confidence at all. But if you say, and you can even like command it, but say, come on, you're better than that. Come on, get the next one. That is a massive difference between someone really just having a go at you and one actually using it for good to push you on to do better. There's a huge, so for me, I'm I am so for, and there's power in our words. We know that, that there is power in our words and what we speak over people. So it's about encouragement. And I think the most someone needs it is when they make a mistake. That's when someone most needs that encouragement, because I mean, just saying how bad they've done is just going to make them worse. They're going to, and that's the thing. What I find, and being really honest, what happens is when you lose confidence, you hide. You want to hide. You want to kind of run away. I remember when I was 16 and I was playing for Aberystwyth first team in the Welsh Premier League. I was petrified of getting the ball. I was absolutely petrified of losing the ball, fear of making a mistake. So I understand confidence is a big thing. So going through my career, I've just got more confident in my ability and who I am as a footballer.
I think that also comes, we go right back to the mindset and knowing who you are and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. It kind of all plays into it that even if a bad game does happen, you can write it off and move on to the next one and not overanalyze and not overthink. We are in a culture now, and especially in terms of social media and in terms of the amount of football analytics that there are available in the world, where every single thing is analyzed to the point, overdrive, so to speak. And I think for especially some of our listeners who are young players wanting to go pro and maybe young professionals, for them, I feel like they need to, this is my personal opinion, you can comment on this as a professional player, but the over analysis of your own performance probably isn't helpful.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there's a balance, isn't there? There's a balance between sitting down and making an improvement and tweaks, which is a good thing. But when it is overkill, and then you're thinking of even your top, like everything. Sometimes the best, you've got a gift. You're a footballer, and it's about, yes, improving, but it's also enjoying playing, enjoying that gift. I think, especially as um, obviously your listeners now and the listeners listening to this, if they are young, let's say really young, I would really recommend to them just to enjoy. Sometimes, look, when you get to a professional level, it gets serious so quickly, and it's not in ways. It's no fun and games anymore. You're earning a living, and it is a dog eat dog world. It is brutal. I've seen it so many times, especially I'd say in my academy days when I was 18 at Swansea. It is brutal. So it's just, I think, enjoy it. Enjoy the good times as well. When you score a goal, when you win the league, or just the little battles. And that's, sometimes we can be so serious in trying to get better and try and get to the end goal, and we don't actually appreciate the journey that it takes there. And it's about enjoying the journey, just get overcoming them obstacles and enjoying the moment. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Enjoy the moment.
And one of those moments that you obviously enjoyed, and I want to touch on this one, is the playoff final. For Wickham, you played Wembley, you came out in the winning side. A lot of people growing up, we certainly have dreams. When I was a kid growing up, and wanting to be a professional footballer, you had dreams of one, playing for your country, and you had dreams of two, lifting a trophy at Wembley. It's maybe teams now dream of lifting the Champions League in Munich or something, but growing up, I wanted to lift the FA Cup in Wembley. I know things like that. But talk to me about that experience for Wickham of winning a trophy and winning it, at Wembley, and what that meant for you.
It was an incredible time. Obviously, we were doing very well in the season, and obviously COVID hit and everything was shut down, and we were all. It was funny because we were actually outside the playoffs, but obviously the points per game made us go back into the playoffs, which I think a lot of people weren't happy, but we were very happy, of course. But I think that whole experience it was just incredible. And the thing is, though, the pressure was immense. It was huge because it's you're gonna win or you're gonna lose. There's more obviously probability and chance of you losing. You've got two playoff games and the final, and we had Fleetwood in the first two legged. And I remember I was obviously starting. and I was so excited. And that's why people would say, how, like, what did you feel nervous? And yes, I did feel nervous, of course, but I was going there with that mindset of I'm just going to enjoy this. How many people can say they're going to be playing in a playoff on Sky with a lot of people watching, all my family, all my friends watch? I just said, look, I'm just going to enjoy this the best I can. And it was just amazing. That the first playoff game, we won 4-1. I scored, had man of the match. I've got the man of the match trophy somewhere in a box hidden away somewhere. But it's just those moments you cherish. And obviously we drew the second leg and we went to Wembley, and the thought of, my gosh, we're going to Wembley. And it was a weird atmosphere, obviously, because it was empty as well, the Wembley, with COVID restrictions and stuff. But just the whole walking out at Wembley was just incredible. You just think, wow. I remember being going there as a fan to watch Swansea v Reading when Swansea went up to the Premier League as a fan, and always dreamt of playing on that pitch, and to be walking out and you could see the trophy right next to you, and you think, I'm 90 minutes away from not only winning but being a championship player. Something that I've always wanted to get a level that I want inspire to play at. So, and I mean, we obviously won the game, and it was just incredible. It was kind of, I'd say, bittersweet, because I would have loved my wife, my family, to have been there to experience, because like we said right from the beginning, it's about family and your friends. So that was a bit gutting, but I mean, you'd rather go there and win and not lose. So it was just amazing, and just to have that experience, and then obviously to play in the championship as well was an amazing experience for me. Uh, and what you do is, in those moments, you make friends forever. In football, those moments you have together, you'll always have that together. From when you die, you will always carry those memories with them people, and that's something that I'll be carrying for the rest of my life.
I think that's such a brilliant point. Winning that trophy with Wickham, no matter what you go on to do in the rest of your career, no matter what your teammates go on and do the rest of their career, whether you end up up at Europe in Scotland, someone could go to Australia, someone could go to Ireland and play, whatever. But there's always going to be that bond and that unique experienced bond from that game, that final, that team, that season, bonded over lifting a trophy at Wembley. And I think that's absolutely tremendous. I want to move on slightly to a Matchfit performance type questions, and just a couple of quick fire questions, and then I'm going to touch a little bit on a little bit of your journey and different periods of your journey. But talk to me about your favorite pre-match meal. What do you have prior to a game? And tell me, do you eat or drink anything at halftime?
That's so. I have two different systems. So if I'm home and I'm at home, I normally just have a good bowl of cereal, shredded wheats, or porridge, and that normally I don't really want to eat too much. Um, I want to kind of keep quite light. But for away matches, there's obviously a pre-match meal, and what I've been having recently is fish, rice, and like stir fry vegetables. So that's kind of my meal. And for drink, I normally have water and a electrolyte tablet, just to replenish the salts and stuff. So that's what I take.
Mhm. You mentioned the electrolyte tablets. Is there any other supplements you would take throughout the week? Maybe after a gym session, after you're training, a protein shake, glutamine,
Yeah,
BCAAs, anything like that you would take consistently?
yeah. Protein shakes is something that I take, but normally, it's to be fair, I try and use so I try and not rely on them things. So I
Mhm,
try and let my body naturally recover the way it needs to.
mhm,
So obviously that's kind of what I tell myself. So I
mhm,
kind of allow a lot of natural, like, repair and growth kind of
mhm,
thing in that way.
mhm. And other recovery methods that you use, you mentioned you're repairing naturally, so I'm assuming you're quite, strict on your sleep pattern and stuff like that for your recovery. Anything like ice baths or massages, anything like that, foam rollers, anything you find helps you in any way at all?
Yeah, so ice bath is a massive one. So I'm when I'm playing regularly, or having hard training sessions. I'm always in the ice bath for at least 6 minutes, and then getting a hot shower. So that's the big one. I have a recovery gun as well, that I find really helps, just loosen off and increase the blood flow into the muscles. I'm trying to think. So yeah, those, I would say, obviously stretching regularly in the morning, having time to stretch, and just getting into a pattern. I remember at Swansea we had two sports scientists who, I think they've gone on to, like, they're doing like basketball in America for one of the main teams. The other one is actually Dan James's personal sports scientist. They were at Swansea, one of the best I've come across, and they were so on to stretching. And I mean, the stretching where it hurts, when like all the hips in your hips, and because a lot of things are in your hips and into your glutes and around the pelvis area. So even from what I was probably 20, 21, even from doing that so much then, I've kept it up. And to this day, I've always had amazing flexibility, just from just being consistent and hammering it in from when they were doing it. And, I've got great flexibility in my hips. So that's due to them, really.
It's phenomenal to hear that, that piece of advice. And again, for our listeners listening to this, you're hearing how, at a young age, Alex was able to stretch it. It's helped him throughout his whole career still to this day. And his flexibility is so, so good. Apart from obviously your football club's training and then your gym work and stuff, is there anything else you've done outside of your local football club that helped you get that extra 1%, whether it be just training on your own? And if so, what was that specifically that helped you elevate your game?
Yeah, so something been doing recently is just like a 20-minute run where it's an intense 20 minutes, but it's not, so it's more for the lungs. It's more for just getting a good blow from your lungs, really, rather than it taking any bad things in your leg, because obviously you've got to use wisdom as well when you have training and games. You don't want to be tired going into a game. So it's kind of just finding those pockets in the evening where it would be good to like do something extra. So what I like to do is it's called we did it at Wickham a lot. In between and after games, if we didn't get the amount of minutes that we needed, it was called the Waitsy Run. And there's a sports scientist at Wickham where you start off on the line, on the goal line. You walk to the six, you come back, and then you do a 3/4 pace to the halfway line, and then back, and then you walk. You slow jog then to like middle of the half, or like the half that you're working at, and then you sprint to the box, and then you sprint back, and then you repeat that. So that's really good because it includes all the kind of running patterns you will in a game. You'll walk at times, you'll sprint, you'll do a quick run, and then you'll jog. So that's something that I've definitely taken, and that's really helped my fitness because it's kind of an all-round aerobic session.
Phenomenal advice, phenomenal advice. Something I'm going to try and implement in my own game. I'm going to try that. Another couple of questions for you is when you were at Swansea as a young professional, they were in the Premier League. You've played in League One, you've played League Two. You're now up in Scotland. Championship. You play with Wickham and everything along that. And all the different stages of your career, has there been different lessons learnt at different levels that have impacted the performance?
Definitely a huge learning curve. So, a lot of times I've learned the never give up times in my career where maybe no one will believe or nobody will believe in you, but there's that belief in yourself and believing in your ability, in what you can do, and kind of pushing past the fact of when people say maybe it's time to finish. I've had that before. I've actually had someone say maybe you should stop football and become a pastor. I've had it all, and I'm like, no, I know I need to be playing football. So it's I've learned that, but in football terms, one of the biggest ones I've learned was uh, in the Championship from League One was a huge step up, and it taught me as well. I mean, that you're coming against teams who are like not the Norwich, where they are absolutely popping the ball around you. I mean, they are just so fluid, so technical, so sharp, and that's definitely taught me that just to improve just the simple things, your first touch, your sharpness, your in ways not take too many touches of the ball, and try and do things a lot quicker. So it's kind of just refining things that maybe in League One and League Two, which you'd probably get away with, but then at the championship level, you have to learn quick. So it's just about refining, and especially in now the Scottish Premier League, there's you've got Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, some really good teams. So it's just adapting, and like you said, your career is a journey, and you've got to just take little things from different seasons, and just implement and get better in every way.
An interesting point for you this season. Obviously, you moved up, and we touched on at the start of the podcast up to Ross County, and you're playing there. Your debut was at Celtic Park. Talk to me about the debut at Celtic Park. What was your thoughts going into it? Was there any nerves there? How did you feel about it? You're going against one of the two superpowers of Scotland effectively in your first game, and I said respectfully, majority of the teams at Scotland, when they do go away to Rangers or Celtic, they're not expected to get anything. But what's the mentality of a team that's going to Celtic Park? What are you guys saying in the changing room? What is your belief? What are you guys thinking? And tell me about your experience as that being your debut as well.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of work watching kind of what they bring, their strengths, their weaknesses, and in ways we had a game plan. We knew what we were doing, and we were confident. We were really confident going into the game. So I was starting on the right wing, which isn't my main position. Normally, I'm a centre forward, but anyway, you don't care. You're just I want to play regardless of what position. But it was a definite learning experience because I mean, so I was playing right wing. Their fullbacks were just bombing on every single opportunity. I mean, it was just like you were caged in really, and it was. It's funny because you learn how a team can keep the ball and actually be that tire you out. I mean, it was so physically demanding. I'd say one of the most physically demanding games I've been in, especially being on the right wing when you've got Jota as well, who is a Portuguese international player running at you, doing step overs, and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to keep them in. But it was a really good experience. I mean, it was definitely an amazing first experience for me in the Scottish Premier League, and something that just relished and just really enjoyed.
It's a fascinating experience of what a professional player experiences, at Celtic Park for talk's sake, um, in the professional game. And obviously, this is your first season with Ross County. Do you set yourself any goals, aspirations for the season?
Yeah, I think my goals is just to play consistently, score as many goals as I can. Goals aren't. You can definitely work on things with scoring goals and shooting, practicing, and doing all them things extra. But at the end of the day, there's many factors in scoring a goal. There's just the weight of pass you get and all of that. So for me, I go into each game going, look, I'm going to do my best. I want to score, and if it happens, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So it's just one of them where I'd love this season. I'd love to definitely add to my goals. Something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm hoping this will be the place where goals will really start racking up for me. And just playing consistently, I think. And my goals as well is just to, I think, create that culture that we've really touched on the whole podcast is creating that environment of vulnerability, and help pushing each other through and pushing each other on as a team, to get better.
I absolutely echo those thoughts, and I wish you all the best for this season with getting the goals and getting the minutes and everything that goes alongside that. I have a couple more questions for you, then we'll close this off. Right back at the very start of the podcast, we talked about the obstacles you had to overcome and the rejection, and you mentioned about having 5 hours to decide whether you're going to Ross County or not. What factors in to a transfer? As in, what characteristics of a club or a team are you looking for as a player?
Yeah, really good question. I think something that was happening at Wickham was the style of play very much wasn't suiting me anymore. It was very much obviously, and that's just the way Wickham have played, and they've have had so much success from it, and I would say to them not to change, because it's been bringing them success, and it is right now, playing with a big man. And you've obviously got Akin Fenwa, Sam Vokes there now, and they've been amazing, and I've learned so much from them anyway. But it was just that I just felt it was time for me to leave. And I think style of play, what will the team that you play for, will it suit you? And definitely a Ross County, it certainly suits my style of play. It suits to very much fast breaks, balls down the sides, running in the channel. So all them things you kind of tick off. Um, and obviously finances as well. I know people say, "Oh, it's not all about the money," but money is important. Especially when you are. I think that's the thing a lot of people don't realize, the sacrifices as well footballers have to take. They have to just and families. It's not just the football, but it's the families. You have to uproot your life at any given moment. And so it has to be at a wage where you think, yes, I'm happy to do that. So that's another factor. And so I would say as well, just for me with this move, there's a lot of new lads as well. There's about pretty much a new team. So that for me was exciting, because a lot of times when you have a new team, it's you're all in the same boat together. There's that you're all in the same boat and ready to attack the season together, and make new bonds, and make new relationships.
It's fascinating insight into Ross County this season, and obviously what goes into finding a new club and deciding if that club is a fit for you as a player. And just to close off, then, if you could give one piece of advice to a young player who comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to go pro, help me," what piece of advice are you giving them?
I would say something that I'm learning in this season as well, that you as a person is enough. Like one of my father-in-law, who's a counselor, actually gave me this really good saying. He says, football is what you do, it's not who you are. And for me, that really stuck for me, because sometimes when you make football about who you are, when things don't go, and that's the thing, you will face rejection. And that's just the nature of football, that you will. And it's about knowing that in those times that there's more to life than football, and you being you and who you are is it that the football doesn't define you, and in those hard times, just knowing that you are enough, you are enough. And football in ways doesn't define who you are, so it's about what really defines you is who you are with your partner, with your family, with them important things. That's what's important in life. So that's what I would that's my piece of advice, is that they are enough in themselves. They don't need football to validate who they are.
That's great insight. Great insight as well into even, the mental side of how you think and who you are. And I think it's phenomenal. Alex, where can people connect with you on social media if they want to continue to follow your journey?
Yeah, so on Instagram, you can definitely tag me in the post. You'll definitely find it. I'm on Twitter as well, so it's Instagram and Twitter that I'm on. So yeah, follow me, send me a message, let me know if you've enjoyed it, and yeah, it'd be great to connect.
There we have it, listeners. Give him a follow on Instagram, Twitter, see what he's up to, continue to follow his career, reach out, any advice, just any comments. He'll be happy to respond. Alex, thank you so much for giving me your time today. This has been the Matchfit Football Podcast. You can find out about all our forms of social media in the description. Alex's social media handles will be in there as well. Thank you for listening. And Alex, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.